So welcome everyone. We are here to discuss the second round of this national championship. This topic is "This House regrets the spread of pop psychology." So we can start with the proposition.
My speech will begin in 3, 2, 1. Good morning, judges. Today we are so proud to propose the motion at hand because pop psychology has had several negative impacts on our society. Our burden today is to prove that pop psychology leads to negative impacts, therefore we regret it. What is the main problem with pop psychology? It inevitably leads to misinformation. If everyone can post a blog or a content on social media or create an ideology without having to prove in any way their knowledge, then even people without reliable knowledge can do so. And we tell you that the majority of psychologists don't have credibility because real psychologists know how difficult it is to work with a patient and help them get better. They know that such work cannot be summarized in a 3-minute video and that there isn't a universal solution. Let's say that you don't buy our narrative, that they won't engage with it. Still, their opinion will be lost with thousands of voices that spread misinformation and they won't achieve their goal. So our arguments will... Yes.
Are you aware of the fact that a lot of psychologists write books?
Yes, they do, but we're not talking about that now. We're talking about people that create, for example, videos to talk about psychology topics, but their knowledge bases on things that they read online. They didn't went to university, for example. Hope I answered you. As I was saying, our arguments will all regard misinformation, which once again is inevitable with pop psychology. But before I move on to our arguments, let me characterize the stakeholders of our model. And so who searches pop psychology? Mainly people with issues and unstable state of mind that don't have access in real life to psychology. These people are fragile and easily manipulated, so if they read a blog, for example, on how to treat their anxiety, they will believe it. But we have already stated that this solution won't be effective and reliable, so they could end up hurting themselves and worsening the situation. Even people without issues will find out about pop psychology. So, for example, a person who feels
PI.
No, I refuse. A person who has a stable state of mind and then reads about social anxiety, she would think that she has social anxiety.
PI.
No, I refuse. How do we solve the problem for fragile peoples? We use social media to inform about public health care and we share information about guidance councils. Guidance councils are places where public psychologists offer meeting with patients and the patient don't have to pay, so they're really useful. Now let me present you our team line. Pop psychology leads to a lack of credibility. It creates a less functioning society, and psychology loses its ultimate goal. Psychology loses its ultimate goal: treatment. I will present you our first and second argumentation. The first one, it leads to a lack of credibility. One of the main risks of pop psychology is the blurring of the lines that keep real life and authoritative psychology separated from the misinformation pop psychology spreads throughout the whole internet. Pop psychology is clearly a non-authoritative reality because it isn't divulged by people who study to obtain a degree, and it adapts itself to trends. It is always changing. Why is this a problem? If people don't understand the difference between the two blurred lines, they would inevitably search for help on the internet because it's easier. By searching a solution on the internet, fragile people are brought to think that they won't need to go to a real psychologist because they can simply solve their problem themselves and without even spending money.
PI.
No, sorry, I refuse. This leads to more and more people turning to the internet instead of psychologists, believing that they are the same thing, they have the same credibility, and psychologists would inevitably lose their jobs. And on top of that, the people who turn to pop psychology won't resolve any of their issues. And they also risk to add more issues to the one they already have. On the other hand, once I refuse. Once it becomes clear just how ineffective pop psychology is, people won't believe in it anymore. But because of the confusion between the pop psychology and real psychology, people will also stop believing in psychologists, the real ones. If they are basically the same thing, why would one have? If they are basically the same thing, why would one help me where the other failed? They would think. Obviously, this is something false, but a fragile person who has been already let down by a non-authoritative source won't have the presence of mind to rationally think about it. Now I'd like to move on with my second argumentation, which is pop psychology creates a less functioning society. The people involved in pop psychology take information from the internet. But the internet cannot be something people rely all their knowledge on, especially when the topic is a topic so important like psychology treatment. This has some really big consequences on society. The first one is misinformation. Of course, misinformation is already spread nowadays, but thanks to pop psychology, it will be spread even more. Then the other consequence is that society wouldn't solve the problem of its citizens.
PI.
No, sorry, I refuse. The citizens would get a false diagnostic. They wouldn't solve their problems. What's more, this would affect not only the patient that already had some issues, but also the ones that at the beginning didn't have nothing, and then thanks to pop psychology believes that they really have something. That to sum up, we have proven to you how society, instead of advantaging its citizens back to a clear and reliable healthcare, would threaten it, causing also its own bad. Thank you.
The speech left to 20 seconds. Thank you for your speech. Now I give the floor to the first speech opposition.
My speech will start in 3, 2, 1. Dear judges, opposition team, I'm Alessandra Fala and I'm the first speaker of the opposition team on the following motion. This house regrets the spread of pop psychology. Today we're here to talk about the spread of pop psychology that is an essential, that is an important matter, that is necessary to talk about it. The requests of people that want to know about those really heartfelt matters is increasing, and as a consequence, also the way to let them aware of those problems that they need to know are changing. In which society are we? We are in a globalized society in which people have access to knowledge, and there is the need to let them be able to know these important topics. And this is guaranteed by books, TV shows, and blogs. These means are essential as they can guarantee an immediate way to reach everyone. They are an essential mean in the society, in the globalized society in which we are in. And that's why we are here today to debate against the motion that regrets the spread of pop psychology. Before proceeding to my speech, I want to rebuttal the things that have been stated from the first proposition team. As first of all, I want to underline that in the first speech, the first speaker stated that in this way psychologists lose their job. But this is not true. As we share awareness, people will know those mental issues, and they then will go to therapy. But this was all. She also stated that this doesn't resolve problems. But if it doesn't resolve problems, then the people need to go to psychologists. So it's not clear if you are saying that there is still the need to have a psychologist or not. And this leads to another point that I want to underline, because it has been stated multiple times that this is not a way to cure psychological problems. But we're not saying that it is a way to cure, because curing problems and spreading awareness and just letting people know about those things, as I said before, it is an essential means to do that, are to separate things that need to be separated. Yes.
The motion talks about treatment as well. Are you not engaging with treatment?
No, we're not. We're saying that treatment as well. But the motion also talks about, for example, sorry, just wait a second. Just talks about also about technique, and you didn't include that. I was just going to say that because you said that therapists don't write. It's not what we're talking about. They don't write books. But if we're talking about even about technique, we have to include them as well. I want now to claim our team line. Our first argument that I'm going to address during my speech is spreading awareness and self-consciousness. This leads to our second argument that will be addressed by our second speaker, that is the necessity to talk about psychological matters. And the third argument that will be addressed from the second speaker is the positive impact that the spread of pop psychology had on our society. And so this is why we don't regret the spread of pop psychology. As we are moving forward, as I already underlined, as I already said, in a word that is more innovative, how can we regret something that has brought awareness and self-consciousness, and so a lot of benefits? It's not, as I said before, the only way to talk about psychology, but it is an efficient way to spread awareness and to reach everyone, because these means are essential. How can we even regret it if today a lot of more people are aware of those problems compared to 50 years ago? Did we have the same awareness 15 years ago on such an essential, such an important topic? It is legitimate for everyone to know those things. And this is the means, one of the most important means that we have today to reach people. How many books, just think about how many books, how many TV shows talks about those matters, and how the second speaker is going to demonstrate. This has broke a lot of walls on such important matters. Just think about how even the TV shows how about blogs talks about say, topics like politics too, but they don't want to manipulate people. They're trying to spread acknowledgement. They're trying to spread information and awareness. And why can't we do that with psychology? Yes.
So in your opinion, pop psychology is talking about psychology?
In our opinion, pop psychology is spreading awareness not about psychology, but also about problems that concern these aspects too. And so we are spreading awareness, as I said before. It is essential and necessary to give people the opportunity to be aware and expand their knowledge on such an important topics, such as the Italian writer Massimo Recalcati, who is a psychoanalysis through his books gives an objective explanation on those topics. Should we have limited him? Why are we regretting this important things that is pop psychology as it has broad benefits? Should we have limited him? Should we have limited the possibility that he had to talk about an important matters? How can we regret something like this that has gave people the opportunity to know something that for years has been not talked about enough, as our second speaker is going to demonstrate? Books and TV shows and blogs, I want to underline again, are an efficient means to reach a global awareness and to give people the opportunity to have awareness on such an important topic. Therefore, our team is against regretting the spread of pop psychology, as we have demonstrated during our first argument, as it is an essential means to reach global awareness, to spread self-consciousness. This brings that people are aware of those topics, are aware of those issues, and they're not only fake news, they are aware of that, and then they can go to a therapist, and this would only bring benefits. Our second speaker, I'm gonna say it again, is going to demonstrate how there is a necessity to talk about these psychological matters, and our third argument is going to prove the positive impact that it had during those years. Thank you.
My speech will start in 3, 2, 1. Good afternoon, Judge. You can expect two things from my You can expect two things from my speech. First, some refutation, then the presentation of our third substantive argument. Before I go on refuting what opposition side has said, let me clarify our team line. The value of our team line is that pop psychology leads to misinformation, and we cannot accept misinformation on such a difficult and sensitive topic as psychology. Let me go on with our refutations. Their first argumentation, which was presented by the first speaker, is spreading awareness and self-consciousness. Well, Team Proposition has not understood the meaning of pop psychology. It is not spreading awareness, it is not talking about psychology, but it is spread, as the motion says, it is spread psychological ideology, therapy, and other techniques. Therefore, we don't just talk about psychology and talk about how important it is, psychology.
Right.
Yes, exactly.
Are you aware that in the definition that you just said, it is said psychological ideals and theory?
Yeah, exactly. Psychological techniques, psychological ideology, psychological therapy. How is a person without knowledge and reliable knowledge able to give therapy? They are not able to do it. It is not just simply saying, hey, you have to go to a psychologist if you want to get better. That is not pop psychology. It is saying, you have to follow this technique. It made me feel better. It made me feel better. I am better thanks to this technique. So you follow it too. That way you get better. That is pop psychology. And we cannot accept pop psychology because in the end it leads to misinformation, it leads to negative impacts, it leads to people to wrong self-diagnosis that don't help people. People don't get treated and not cured. They don't get treated because of pop psychology. Let me go on. Let me give you a specific example. Pop psychology and the diet culture. let's say that I look up on a vlog, on a book, as they say, it is absolutely possible that a book says so. Let's say that I don't feel confident. I have a problem with my self-esteem, I feel self-conscious, as they say. And I look it up, and they tell me, oh, you don't feel confident? Perfect. Then follow this technique. Drink a whole glass of water with lemon in the morning, and start, I don't know, intermittent fasting. That way you feel better about yourself, you will get better. That is pop psychologists. They tell you, you have a problem, you can solve it this way, follow this reason. Why does this not work? First reason, it creates a new problem. It creates new insecurities. It creates new problems. Second reason, what works for you does not work for me. It is not sure that what works for you works for me. A psychologist has studied and knows that there are various techniques and there is not a universal answer. We cannot state that just because something you did not study, because we have proved that in our framing that the majority of pop psychologists didn't study. Why is that? Let me remind you of it. First reason, because psychologists know how difficult it is to cure someone, know that there isn't a universal answer, know that what has worked for one person will not necessarily work for another one, and therefore they know that it is not so easy to just write the solution in a blog, write the solution in a TV show, and therefore everyone gets better thanks to it. Yes?
Don't you think that in our Italian TV shows, talking about politics, there are experts that talks about there are politicians that are experts, and that could be done also about psychology.
Yes, absolutely. Two answers to this POI. First one, politics cannot be compared to psychology. Psychology is absolutely subjective. What I feel in my mind, in my brain, it is absolutely subjective. Politics bases itself on objective facts, on objective opinion. So yes, we can all have different opinions in politics, but it is not regarding how we feel. It is regarding what happens in the world actually, because we can talk about how we feel in politics, but then if we don't act in the world, it does not make a difference. So that example does not work for psychology. Second reason, yes, we can have experts talk about psychology on TV shows. That is completely fine, but it won't be pop psychology. Why? Because those experts won't give you their resolution and the solution to your problem. They will tell you, oh, you feel this way, you can go talk to a psychologist. You feel this way, okay, it is normal, it is fine, we can do something about it. But then you have to go actually in real life or online, if you prefer, to talk to someone that will, no thank you, that will identify your situation and try to solve your situation. If we just find information in TV shows, thanks to pop psychologists, it won't be adaptable to my situation. It will be just a universal solution which ultimately won't help me. On the other side, it not only won't help me, but it most probably will cause me a problem. Let's say that I just have, as my first speaker said and has brought as an example, I just have some anxiety. Everyone has anxiety. And then I look it up, I find a blog where people talk about how, oh, you have anxiety. Well, we can give you the solution. You can either take drops of this kind of medicine and that will make you feel better, or you can either try to socialize with people that find similar situation to yours. No, thank you. And they give you a solution that will not automatically work for you because they don't know your situation, they don't know who you are, they don't know what type of anxiety you're feeling, and in the end you convince yourself that maybe yes, you suffer from social anxiety, and in the beginning you didn't suffer from social anxiety, you simply had some anxiety before test, but you read about social anxiety and you get to know about it, and it is not being talked about from experts but from people who experienced it and don't have the knowledge and reliable knowledge. So in the end you convince yourself that you have social anxiety, and the impacts on their world are much worse than on ours. But let me now go on to our third and last argumentation, which is psychology loses its ultimate goal, treatment. Judges, let me ask you a question. What is the goal of psychologists? In our opinion, it is treatment. And it is to help people get better, to understand their feelings, to build a stable relationship with themselves and with their surroundings and with the people around them. We think that this is the main goal of psychology. Now let me ask you another question. What is the main goal of pop psychology? Because even though, of course, psychologists work, they have a job, they have an income, we don't think that their ultimate goal is to make money. Otherwise, they could have just chosen an easier path, because becoming a psychologist, it is not easy. It does not take a little time. You have to study a lot, you have to know about techniques, you have to study for years and years and years, and then get a master in psychology. Therefore, they become psychologists not because of money, because of choices, because of treatment, because of wanting to help other people. Why do pop psychologists become pop psychologists? Because they want fame, because they want success, because it is easier, because they want money. Because in the end, you don't have to study to become a pop psychologist. You don't have to have reliable knowledge. You don't even have to spend that much time researching, because in the end, if you only talk about psychology for 2 minutes in a TV show, and the writer of a TV show writes about pop psychology for 2 minutes, he doesn't have to study for 5 years in order to write that 2 minutes conversation, right? Therefore, the ultimate goal of psychology is lost. And what are the impacts on this? If the goal of psychology is not treatment, then its whole existence doesn't make sense. In their word, the whole existence of psychology doesn't make sense. And therefore, we get loss of credibility and loss of a functioning society, as our first speaker has said. Thank you, which is the reason why I'm so proud to propose to this motion.
Your speech is 8 minutes and 12 seconds.
Oh, sì, scusate. Grazie a voi.
Now I give the floor to the second. When you're ready.
I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Beatrice Patti, and today I will be the second speaker of the opposition team. I would like to start my speech by criticizing what's been said by the first and second speaker of the proposition team. First of all, the first speaker started her speech by saying how there are many negative impacts on pop psychology, not considering all the benefits that pop psychology brings, as we're going to demonstrate with our third argument. As the second speaker said, all of their argumentation are based on one value, which is misinformation, therefore not reliable sources. We are aware of the fact that we can't certify all of the information that pop psychology provides. However, there are many more that are well-founded, such as psychologists that have their own blogs or they publish their own books. How can we not consider those information valuable? However, even though those information could not be valuable, we can still be aware, raise awareness about a problem, and then realize we have that problem and go ask for more help as classical therapy. Then you said that pop psychology does not involve psychological matters that the first speaker of my team has proposed. However, psychological ideals are about psychology. Therefore, we're talking about mental health, for example, as we're going to demonstrate with our second argument. Then the second speaker said that whenever a psychologist or whoever is involved in pop psychology provides information, those information are basically pointless. Because of course we are aware of the fact that it will not solve people's mental health, but as the second speaker herself said, it would bring people to go to therapy. Pop psychology would help people, as you said it yourself, people would be lead to get better. They will be brought to therapy and therefore they can get better. You said also that people don't get treated. Actually, people can go to classical therapy afterwards. Pop psychology does not stop there. Pop psychology can continue, can raise awareness, as the first speaker said. I can be aware of the fact that I have a problem and therefore go to therapy, the classical therapy afterwards. Yes.
If with pop psychology you spread techniques and solutions to the problems, then what would be the incentive for pop psychologists to send the people to other psychologists?
You said it yourself. Some psychologists can say to their people they can cure their people on their way. However, they can tell them to go to therapy afterwards. Those are your words. And anyways, I will continue by presenting the other two arguments, which is the need to talk about psychological matters and the positive impacts that pop psychology has on society. So with the first argument, we have demonstrated that pop psychology has brought us more conscious and more consciousness, and therefore has made us more aware not only of ourselves but also about people around us. For many years, psychology matters such as mental health diseases have been kept in the dark. People didn't know about them, and people were ashamed about talking about them. Thanks to pop psychology and how it has been promoted, those walls have finally been brought down, and all of the prejudice have been finally overcome. Let's think about COVID-19, for example. It was a time when social media, blogs, books were all around, and people tried to get more and more informed. This brought people to know many more things that they didn't know before. Psychological matters included. Therefore, by getting more information, they realized that they have a problem, and thanks to the fact that they were not ashamed about talking about mental health anymore, they finally got the courage to go ask for help and therefore get better. This was also thanks to pop psychology that was promoted during the COVID-19 time. Also, as we have said many times, pop psychology in general does not stop to pop psychology, but eventually
What if they read about false information and get falsely diagnostic because of pop psychology?
they can still be sure about their problem by going to an actual therapist in present by classical therapy. Pop psychology, as I was saying before, if there is the need, pop psychology does not stop just there. I can still go through a therapist and get diagnosis. And still get a diagnosis. Let's think about Freud, which is the father of psychoanalysis. He fought for awareness during his time, and in a world that we live today, which is full of information that moves from blogs to books to social media to TV shows, how can we think about stopping this amazing spread of information? You said that psychological matters are incredibly important, but especially because they are incredibly important, don't you think we need to talk about it on platforms like social media or blogs that can spread quickly and spread information and raise awareness in a quicker and faster way? Now I will introduce our third argument, which are the positive impacts that pop psychology can have. So we have demonstrated that pop psychology can bring more awareness and self-consciousness, and also it brought down many barriers that have been kept on for many years. Positive impacts that psychology can have two different points of view. On one hand, we can talk about positive impacts on singular individuals. On the other hand, on society in general. So first of all, on singular individuals, I can be aware of a problem that I have come to the realization thanks to pop psychology, and therefore go ask for help. Therefore, reach a better mental health state by myself. On the other hand, on society, first of all, there is the improve the quality of streaming platforms. In fact, as I said before, and as the first speaker of my team already anticipated, we live in a world full of globalization. Information are taken from platforms, and it's important to keep promoting this information through such ways, such as social media, blogs, books, and so on. Another important benefit that pop psychology can have is the spread of important information. Not only I can be more aware of myself, and therefore I can be put in the possibility to reach a better mental health state, but I can also, if all of us learn about these things and this information, we can finally spread important information in our society, and our society as a whole can be finally more aware. Therefore, we approve and we do not regret the spread of pop psychology for three main reasons. First of all, it helps spreading awareness and self-consciousness. Second of all, there is the need to talk about psychological matters and finally bringing down those barriers that have kept built for many, many times. And last but not least, all the positive impacts that pop society has brought to us till today. Thank you.
Thank you for your speech. Okay, when you're ready, I give you the floor for the last speech of this presentation.
My speech will start in 3, 2, 1. Good afternoon, judges. I'm here to criticize what has been said throughout the whole debate by the opposition team and to clarify eventual doubts about our line of arguments. First of all, the opposition team seems to have misunderstood what pop psychology is. Pop psychology is not simply spreading awareness. Pop psychology is spreading psychological ideals and spreading treatments for these psychological problems. Pop psychology spreads solutions that will not help the people get better because, yes, of course, psychologists write books, psychologists write for TV shows and spread information. But how can I be sure a source is an authoritative one? How can I be sure? I don't have the means to, as the opposition team said, we don't have the means to check that every source is an authoritative one. We don't have the means to be sure that everyone on the internet or in books who says, I am a psychologist and I say this, has a degree and the authority. Yes, thank you.
Are you aware of the fact that psychology is not a specific science and that in any case is different from any to another? So the approach is always different and people can find different ways to solve their problems.
Yes, people can find different ways to solve their problems, but it is not by going to believe in whatever source they find. Not everyone online has the online. We are not sure that what we are reading is what corresponds to reality. We are not sure because, as you said, we can check every source of information on the internet or even in books. We can check everything. So we can be sure an information is a correct one or it is authoritative. And that's why we believe that pop culture spread misinformation, because we can check every source and we can check that everyone, we can be sure that everyone who reads online an information that isn't a correct one will go to therapy because they will believe in these solutions these pop psychologists give. For example, as my second speaker talked about diet culture, how many people starve themselves because a blog on the internet said, oh, if you have this problem, you have to fast because that is the way to solve your problem. How many people believe that we all know, I think, of how many eating disorders are of how much eating disorders are diffused in our society thanks to the social media and to this pop culture, because pop culture is not simply spreading awareness. It would be a wonderful thing if it was only to spread awareness. But it is not, because these pop psychologists give their false diagnosis.
POI.
No, thank you. And give also false solutions to go with this diagnosis. And even if I go to a real psychologist, how can I know that the diagnosis a false one? How can I know that the diagnosis a pop psychologist gave me is a real one? How can I know if it's false or real? I won't be sure. I won't be able to check because I don't have the information. And even if I go to a psychologist and tell him what I learn about online, we won't be sure. This process is not a safe one. It can also lead to people that maybe don't have problems but are insecure of themselves or are scared of of having these problems, it can lead them to develop these problems, because psychological problems are not something you are simply born with, are something you develop, and this pop culture, this pop psychology spreads informations that maybe are excessive because they are not universal. The treatment is not a universal one, as also the symptoms are not the same for everyone. I can read on a blog that if I have some anxiety, I will probably have a chronic one, but maybe I simply am an insecure person and I need to work on myself. I don't need to take medicine, drugs, and to go to therapy. No, thank you. We can't globalize this information to everyone, because psychology is a long process that needs to start with a psychologist and with dialogue between the patient and the psychologist. We need a real diagnosis, and we need a long process of dialogue and work on both parts, which with pop psychology this part completely loses its significance, because I can't expect to achieve what people achieve in years of real treatment with a psychologist in reading a book or looking or watching a TV show and seeing this character with a problem and this line. And I can expect to achieve what takes years to achieve in a 3-minute video, because it's impossible. And also because as I said before, we can check every information, and so I won't be sure that what I'm reading and watching is what I need personally, because psychology is a too personal matter for generalization like pop psychology does. Also, real psychology's main goal is the treatment of the patient. As my second speaker said, a psychologist takes years to have a degree to start this job. This job is, yes, they do it also for the money, because no one does a job if they won't be paid for it. But also, they could have chosen an easier path. They could have chosen another job that pays well without spending years and money on studying for it. And the main goal of a real psychologist is to help people. And what is pop psychologist's main goal? What is it? Because I can't see the point of the opposition side. Also, they made a list of positive change pop psychology brings to the individuals and to society as a whole. My speech ends here.
8 minutes and 10 seconds.
Thank you. So thank you. I give you the floor for the last speech of the opposition team.
My speech will start in 3, 2, 1. Good morning, judges and proposition team. In my speech, I'm going to disprove what has been stated by the proposition team and then rebuild and restore the validity of our thesis. Starting from 4 macro areas that I'm going to criticize, they are the misinformation, the false solution and diagnosis related to pop psychology, the limits of psychology, and then the concept of pop psychology. Starting from what the first speaker of the proposition team said. First of all, she focused her speech on the highlighting through her first and second argumentation that pop psychology brings no benefit to our society because it's mainly characterized by misinformation. Because who write books or blogs or conduct a TV show are not experts and they don't have credibility. First of all, we have to divide two aspects of pop psychologists. As she said, answering my point of class where I asked her that if she was aware of the fact that a lot of psychologists can write and can conduct TV shows, she of course stated that it is true. So it is true that psychologists can write books, psychologists can write blogs, psychologists can conduct TV shows. So, first of all, talking about psychologists, we can consider, and then when she said that there are blogs and books written by people that don't know anything about psychology, we can't talk about psychology if that person doesn't know anything about psychology because he wouldn't talk about psychology. Yes.
Are you saying that online no one pretends to know about psychology and talks about it even though they don't?
To be defined psychology, it has to have characteristics that are considered psychological characteristics. So a blog that talks about psychology, pop psychology, but we're talking about something that adds psychology as a matter. Then they can have their own ideals, then they can have their own treatments that are proposing. But we're talking about psychology. We are not talking about, I don't know what else, about politicians or other matters. We're talking about psychology. So if we are reading a blog that is about psychology, the blog has to do with psychology. Because I'm going ahead with my computation. So, just because it is online, it doesn't mean that it doesn't have anything to do with psychology. You brought, the second speaker brought the example of the diet cure. She said that if I have problems, then reading online something, the person that is writing the blog can give me some solutions. First of all, they are proposing and not imposing anything. You can follow it. If you gain a benefit, then you won't have this problem again. If you don't gain any benefit, instead of, you can, first of all, reading. Yes, please.
What about all the fragile people that initially feel comfort thanks to pop psychology and end up feeling even worse because of misinformation?
First of all, they can have a benefit from pop psychology, but if they don't have any benefit, they can consult other sources because thanks to the globalization and thanks to technological progress, we have the access to a lot of sources. There isn't just a blog, and if she done that with the first blog, then they can keep going reading other blogs, or if the blogs doesn't bring any benefit, they can consult a physical expert, which is a psychology. And then, going ahead, as a host to the third speaker, psychology is not a perfect and really determined science. Of course, an expert and a psychologist has studied, but then with this single case, they don't know in any time if how to try to solve the problems that this person has. And another thing that I'm going to criticize is that they mentioned several times the use of medicines and drugs. A blog can tell you to take medicines. We are not talking about psychiatric. Psychology, we're talking about pop psychology, not pop psychiatric. If they are suggesting to take drugs, it is not a pop psychological blog or books, because they can't administrate any drugs or medicinals. They can just write about feelings.
Yes, but they can recommend them, don't they?
It is not a pop psychological blog if it is recommend a drug. It would be a pop psychiatric blog, not a pop psychological. We can't define it pop psychological if it's saying to take drugs or medicines. And then to administrate, determine medicines, you have to have a prescription, so it is not possible. Going ahead with my computation. The second speaker, through the third argumentation in favor of their thesis, said that we have to build a better environment, and pop psychology is not going to help people. And she asked several times, which is the goal? Where one is the goal of pop psychology? She said that for psychologists, it is just help people. For pop psychology, is to make money. How can somebody that is writing a blog just want to make money and, as she mentioned, also want success? Who guarantees it? This is a missionary job. This is somebody that wants to help. If I'm writing a blog, I'm not gaining any money. There is not a contract, there is nothing. And also, writing a book, there is the opportunity, the possibility that I'm going to gain money. But there is also the possibility that just a person is going to buy my book, and through the book that a psychologist is writing, or somebody that wants to help people to talk, somebody that probably had problems, wants to write something, they want to help people. This is the goal of pop psychology, is help people, make people aware, and starting from awareness, I'm going to rebuild the validity of our thesis, of what we believe. First of all, the spread of awareness and self-consciousness, as we said in our first argument, is the first goal that we are achieving through pop psychology, through books, through TV shows and blogs. We are achieving the awareness of those problems of a huge part of the society. Then, through our second argumentation, we prove that there is the necessity to talk about those matters. Who said that people can talk about psychological matters only with a psychologist, only when they recognize the problem? Probably they don't even know that they're having a problem. And through the awareness, we are talking about those matters. And then, through our third argumentation, we proved that there are several positive impacts that pop psychology has, both on those who are benefiting from it and also on the tools like the streaming channels that they are using. Thank you for listening. I finished my speech.
Thank you.
Of this very stimulating debate, in which we have talked about such important matters, such as mental health, the importance of awareness, and psychological treatments. It is crucial now to underline which have been the main points of clash between the two teams. I will analyze 3 of them. The first is the concept of pop psychology itself. The second is the importance of spreading awareness, and the third is the impact that pop psychology can have on us. I will start by the first one, which, as I said before, is the concept of pop psychology. So the proposition team said how it is pointless. The aim of pop psychology is basically pointless and will bring more risks than benefits, and therefore it would be dangerous for our society. One risk that they've talked about is misinformation. They've said also that topics are too important to talk about them on platforms such as blogs, social media, or the ones that pop psychology shares. On the other hand, we think that pop psychology share the same goals as normal therapy. It aims to help people getting better, sometimes in a quicker and also more effective way, and especially because the topics we're talking about are so important. Don't you think it is crucial to spread information in a quicker way, such as the one that pop psychology promotes? The second point of clash is the importance of spread awareness. The proposition team said that since there is the risk of misinformation, it is better to not be informed at all. On the other hand, we think that it is crucial that awareness is crucial to reach a better state, not only for ourselves personally, but also for society. The third and last point of clash is the impact that pop psychology can have on us. So the proposition team said that only as negative impacts and would put our entire society at risk. On the other hand, we believe that we can benefit from pop psychology. Pop psychology can bring an enormous amount of benefits to us. On one hand, under an individual point of view, therefore by reaching a better mental health state. On the other hand, on society, we could have a more aware and informed society. So, do you want to live in a world in which mental health is still a taboo, in which mental health is we're still not talking about mental health diseases, in which people are not informed because they are ashamed of being informed and they don't want to know, they don't want to get cured? Do you want to live in a world where you're kept in the dark about your own mental health and about what's going on for people around you? Or do you want to live in a world that our team is proposing? We believe in a world that is rich of awareness, self-consciousness, and we believe in the importance of talking about topics that are so important as mental health, as therapy treatment. We believe in a world that is aware, that is informed, and that can only benefit from pop psychology. Thank you.
You're given 10 seconds.
Thank you. So I give you the floor for the last speech.
Thank you. Just a second. Before I start, I would like to thank Team Opposition for this wonderful debate. It has been extremely educational and interesting. Thank you. My speech will start in 3, 2, 1. Good afternoon. You can expect 2 things from my speech as the reply speech. First, some flashpoint, then some weighing and comparative. I will be comparing their world to our world, and I will show you why our world is better than theirs. Let me start with the clash point. The first clash point that I identified was the whole concept of pop psychology. Side opposition based their whole team line on spreading awareness, but they don't deny that it will lead to misinformation, as we have stated in our framing. So they spread awareness with misinformation. We say that pop psychology is not spreading awareness, as the motion says it is spreading techniques, ideologies on psychologists, and treatment. They say this will lead to people going to psychologists and to going to therapy. We say that first of all, there is no incentive for pop psychologists to do so, to lead people to therapy, because then people who go to therapy won't read their blogs. Second of all, even if there were the incentives, it wouldn't happen because the goal of pop psychology is not to treat people but to make money. It's not to treat people because pop psychologists don't have reliable knowledge, or at least the majority of them doesn't. That is how our old team line. We cannot say that none of pop psychologists have knowledge. We say that most of them don't, which ultimately hides the voices of real psychologists in pop psychologists. The second point of clash that I have identified is the characterization of the stakeholders. They characterize fragile people, which in their opinion won't be influenced by misinformation, which is pop psychologists as they have accepted. If the advices that they find bring them into a cycle of issues, they'll be able to get out and seek help. They'll be able to go to therapy, even though pop psychologists hasn't made them feel better. In our opinion, fragile people that seek help will be badly influenced by pop psychology, and if they end up in that cycle that I've just told you about, they won't be able to stand up and look for therapy. So in the end, in their side of the house, the impacts on fragile people, on the stakeholders, on psychologists are entirely negative. They don't have positive impacts, and even if they have them, the negative impacts are more important than the positive ones. Now, let me go on with some comparative. Let me compare their world to our world. In their world, misinformation is spread. Misinformation about a sensitive topic as psychology, as they say multiple times during the debate. Psychology is a difficult topic to talk about. It needs to be talked about, we agree on that. But the right way is not through misinformation, and in their world they have misinformation. People with issues don't solve their issues because pop psychology does not ultimately solve their issues, and people who initially didn't have issues end up having them because of misinformation, and everything collides. In our world, instead, we never stated that our world is perfect. We don't have a perfect world. But thanks to our model, we spread awareness because in the framing, we have talked about our model in which we explain how we can use social media to spread awareness, to talk about psychologies, still not talking about techniques, ideologies, and therapy, and still not giving advices on how to solve the problem. This is the key difference between our world and their world. In their world, they give advice on how to solve problems. In our world, we tell people that it is important to care about mental health, which in the end proves that our world is better because we have less misinformation, we help people spread awareness, we help people, and we have real psychologists. Thank you so much for the attention.